Hey everyone, I'm outside of the garage garden looking in, and as you can see, everything's growing up big, kind of crowding everything out, overtaking everything. This video is going to touch base on my project that I decided I'm going to do. I had a nice pile of lumber, and out here in the yard, I am in the process of putting up a greenhouse. I was going to do a hoop house, but after doing pricing on the piping and stuff, I decided it wasn't worth it. I could do it for cheaper for lumber, and I can make it the way I want. So, anyways, I'm doing 14 foot wide by 16 foot deep. The fabric I'm using on the ground is not landscape fabric. It's actually an insulation fabric that you staple to studs and then blow insulation into, but I had it. It's kind of similar to the landscape fabric, and if it doesn't hold back the weeds and the grass, I don't care. I'll just cover it up with landscape fabric. But for now, I'm putting that down on the ground, and this is the first stages of it. My next stage is I'll be laying down a pressure-treated frame on the ground and then building some truss walls to create a frame for the plastic to go over. I will continue this video as I go through the steps. Alright, I got my base frame made. This is just going to be my ground contact. Everything else from here out is going to be regular 2x material, no pressure treated. But if you look in the corner here, you can see how I cross-lapped everything. And if you're not familiar with Kreg, if you're not familiar with the Kreg company, they actually make a tool that it's called a pocket hole jig, and what it does is it creates holes on for toenailing screws, so to speak. But they also have, it used to be just for cabinetry. Now they've increased it so that you can do 2x4s and larger materials to pocket screw or toenail screw, stuff like that. And by toenail screwing, what I mean is you can see how it creates a slot and it ties everything together. And that's how I screwed all this together. So, didn't have to do it that way, but I have Kreg screw, or Kreg products, and I saw this and I had to buy it, and it actually made it go pretty quick for me. So, that's the step. My next step will be starting to create the trusses, the truss walls, framework, and getting it put together and put up. And I'll show you a picture of what I was thinking for design on my sketchbook. Once I figured out the pitch of my roof rafters, I made a template out of one of the 2x6s. Using that template, I traced out all the other 2x6s and currently cutting them out so they all match. After I get them all cut out, I pull out the Kreg jig and the drill and start drilling my pocket holes. The pocket holes are going to be, the ones I'm drilling right now are for the ridge. Now I got the block plane out, and I'm using the block plane to soften the edges on the edge of my truss where the plastic is going to rub. Try to make it so there's no sharp points or any splinters sticking out. You can see I'm laying out the truss pieces on the ground and screwing them together. If I wanted to make this stronger, I could have used glue. I did not. I plan on adding gussets. Further in the video, you'll see me making gusset boards out of OSB and applying them. Here I'm cutting the studs for the trusses, and the front and the back section of the walls will have a flat cut. They're going to sit on top of the 2x6s. The rest of the studs are going to half lap over the 2x6s in the center of the garage or the greenhouse. You can see me notching out the half laps now. Back to the Kreg jig to create holes so I can screw the studs to the bottom of the rafters. Essentially, I'm creating a truss frame system for my walls. Now my studs are pretty much 8 feet tall, and my trusses are just under 8 foot long, each half of the truss. So you can see I'm flipping these truss pieces over just by grabbing one piece and flipping it over. So the pocket screw system is pretty strong. Obviously, it could be reinforced. It should be reinforced. It's not sufficient enough on soft pine to hold up against too much stress. Here I'm making some foam templates for the shapes of the gussets I'm going to use, and I'll pull out a sheet of plywood here and cut the shapes out. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be pretty. They have to be functional. Gotta love cordless tools. They make so much of this go extremely fast and easy, no cords to deal with. After a couple of splinters in my fingers, finishing up cutting out the pieces. Then I'll go ahead and lay them out on the truss pieces and fasten it all down. If I were to do this again, I would probably rethink the OSB gussets. I'd either go with metal ones or use actual plywood, and probably do both sides of the truss for added security and strength. When I was standing one of these trusses up, I was struggling a little bit, and it did come back down, and I hit it too hard with my push board, and I ended up snapping one of these trusses over my head. But that was after twice of dropping it, so putting in a couple of cross braces to hold up the truss once I get it stood up. I put a couple of blocks on the bottom of the frame to keep the bottom from kicking out on me, and by putting those angle pieces up, I had something to set the truss against while I screwed it down. Once again, pulling more slivers out of my hand there. I didn't worry about plumbing up, making this all level. I made it square, so because I know I'm on unlevel ground, I'm not trying to make it perfectly level. I'm just trying to make it square. And this isn't meant to be a permanent structure. If I have to take it down, I can take it down. Right now I'm screwing in my horizontal braces that will maintain my spacing on my truss walls as I go and add support to my structure as, you know, for longevity and strength. This truss here happens to be the one that I ended up snapping over my head. I just dropped it there. Ended up getting the neighbor to come over and help me hold it up. And of course, I edited that out. It's kind of embarrassing. But at this point, I'm just waiting for the neighbor to be available again for the last piece. And while I wait for them, I prep it and get it all ready. And while I'm waiting, that's when the camera video reached maximum volume. So that's the end of day one. Thanks for watching.